Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Simple Songwriting. It is me, your host, Saint Aria. We're doing the fourth song from Sanctuary that we've covered on the channel. Today we're doing Rapture, which is the fourth song on the album as well. I hope you've all been enjoying the album. It's been out for a week. Last week we did the song Sanctuary, it had some good stuff and it had some bad stuff. This song, Rapture, when I was listening through the album, it was like, I'm just gonna be honest. The first three songs are like the weakest songs on the album, in my opinion. I had obviously heard Who Will You Follow, and I actually did a breakdown of Who Will You Follow a few weeks ago. Go check it out if you're interested. But yeah, I just felt like those first three songs were kind of obligatory. Like, yeah, we just need to get some like radio singles out the way. And then I was getting a little bummed. I was like, is this all this album's really going to be? And then Rapture came on as track 4. And honest to God, it like took me by surprise. It totally brought me back into the album. Like I was like, oh, okay, so we're actually doing some really cool stuff on this album. And I do think that the later tracks on the album are much better than the opening 3. So, I hope that you've all been enjoying it. I'm thinking I'll do one more from this album just because I've already covered 4 of them. There's one more in particular I want to do. I'll just spoil it. How Do I Heal? I think I'm going to do How Do I Heal next week. So stick around, maybe even subscribe, wink, wink. For real though, it's been a lot of fun covering this album. There's definitely been songs that I like, songs that I don't like. I do like How Do I Heal, so that'll be another one that I like next week. And I like this one, though. It's funny, as I dug into this one, there were a few, not much, but just like there was one thing in particular on this song that I didn't really like, but we'll get into it. But yeah, if you're interested, I've already covered Who Will You Follow, Afterlife, and Sanctuary. So yeah, we'll be doing Rapture, and then I think I'm gonna do How Do I Heal next week, and then I'll see. I don't, it's funny because I only do one song a week, which means if I'm talking about 5 songs from one album, I've spent over a month working on this album, working through this album. I don't think I can get to every song, and I don't really want to do every song. There are some songs that I think kind of stand for themselves or speak for themselves, or, I like to do songs that I think actually have the substance to dig into. But also, there's lots of songs coming out right now. I know MGK just came out with a new song. Polyphia came out with a new song, which was kind of cool. I probably won't cover a Polyphia song on the channel. It would just be kind of tough with no lyrics. Maybe I shouldn't say that. But maybe one day. But yeah. Anyway, long story short, there's lots of songs coming out, and if I spend a month and a half, 2 months on one album, it's sort of, I feel like I miss out on other good stuff too. So. I think I'll do How Do I Heal next week, but that's next week. Today we are doing Rapture. So yeah, this is definitely a top 3 from this album for me. Great song, and I'm actually really excited to talk about it. So without further ado, let's just get into it. I'm gonna start at the start. Here we go. All right, so Amy's about to come in with the singing, but I want to talk about this music real quick. So this is really cool. Like immediately, this is a very different vibe than we had on a lot of the other tracks. This is eerie, soft piano. It's like a filtered piano. It could be a synth, but yeah, it's just very tense, but not necessarily aggressive yet, or it's like that soft aggressiveness, if that makes sense. The chord progression, I didn't look at the chord progression, I'm sorry, but it is a darker chord progression. It's definitely not a pleasant one. There's these little glitchy sound effects playing all throughout. You can hear them going kind of all over the place too. You hear it. Pretty cool. So we're already introducing like some of that glitchy electronic sound effects. Maybe that will go somewhere later in the song. But yeah, and then there's this percussive sound too, like an electronic percussion do. Or hold on, let me make sure I got that right. Yeah, so yeah, it's I think those are all of the different elements, but yeah, it overall, we're not starting off huge and bombastic. We're starting off very tense and eerie, and yeah, it's kind of dark too. So it's a cool, intriguing intro. I'm really digging it. And so the music doesn't change, but Amy comes in. So I'm gonna let Amy sing. We're gonna go through this first verse.
Look at all the time that you wasted. You could put the fire out at any time. Too afraid to face it, got to fly higher. Try to keep the animal inside. One too many secrets to hide that I cannot hold on.
Okay, so let's just first talk about that vocal melody, because honestly, again, you know, when the song first started playing, I was like, okay, this music is cool. It's a change of pace, a little dark and eerie, but it was this vocal melody where I really was like, okay, we're actually really doing something cool here. This vocal melody is excellent. It's probably one of the best on the album, in my opinion. She's not quite whispering, but it's so soft. But there's like this aggressiveness to it. There's this like frustration. You know, again, Amy's very good about capturing different emotions with the way that she says words. I pointed this out on Sanctuary. You know, when she says violence, there's a point in that song where she says the word like violence, and she kind of does that violence. Anyway, yeah, she's really good about that though, and capturing specific emotions with just the tone of her voice. This kind of made me think of like the devil on your shoulder, right? Like the devil on your shoulder whispering in your ear, especially because the lyrics. We're not talking about the lyrics just yet, but you know, it's like, look at all the time that you wasted. It's like, again, little devil on your shoulder. The cool thing about this melody is that it's asymmetrical, so it doesn't rhyme, like it doesn't repeat itself. Usually with a vocal melody, you'll have the first half of the verse, and then you'll just repeat the same melody in the second half of the verse, maybe with a little bit of variation, but that's very common. But this melody it's unique the entire way through. And I think what makes that so cool is that the way that she gets us to stick with the melody, or at least is my perception of it, is that she's using the syllables that she's rhyming as a way to keep us with the melody. So pay attention to the rhymed syllables.
Look at all the
Time that you wasted.
You could put the fire out at any
Time.
time.
So there's that. So that wasted kind of leaves you hanging. Then you could put the fire out at any time, and then that I'm syllable. Let's listen for that.
Face it, got to fly
So then she says face it, which also rhymes with wasted, and then fly, and then high. Though technically the word is higher.
Try to keep the animal inside.
And then right there, she could have gone back to, you know, look at all the time that you wasted, but instead she keeps that I syllable going, you know, try to keep the animal inside.
One too many secrets to hide.
And then right there, she keeps, again, the I syllable. I think that's one of the reasons why it's so tense, is because she keeps hitting that syllable, but this time she goes a little bit higher with the with the harmony as well. And then changes it up at the end to bring us into the pre-chorus. So yeah, like overall, it's an excellent melody for the way that it kind of keeps stringing you along, keeps building, and then keeping that syllable going. And then she breaks from the syllable at the end as sort of like which to me kind of releases the tension of that syllable repeating. I noted it's actually kind of similar to a rap verse. If you listen to a rap verse, they don't, they'll keep doing the same syllable, but they change up the flow all throughout. And in fact, that's part of what makes it unique, is that they can do different flows, but still kind of land on the same syllable or keep a similar rhyme scheme going. Obviously it's not a rap verse. She's not rapping here, but I think it's just interesting that, using the rhymed syllable as a musical or as a rhythmic device, which she's absolutely doing here. Lastly, the harmonies here are incredible. This first harmony, I was like, immediately I was like, okay, I was like captivated by it. I was like, this is awesome.
Time that you wasted. You could put the fire out at any time. Too afraid to face it, got to fly.
And again, doing that fly syllable there, and then following it up immediately with, you hear that, it's like a low harmony. I'm not going to try to sing it, but you hear that low harmony comes in. That's so cool. That's because it's matching the tone of the music perfectly. It's eerie, it's dark. It's a very strange, like otherworldly harmony. And then she does it again here.
One too many secrets to hide.
I almost wonder, I don't like to get too deep into theory on these episodes, but I wonder if that's the same harmony, just an octave up, like if it's a third harmony or something.
Fire out at any time. Too afraid to face it, got to fly. One too many secrets to hide.
I feel like it is. I feel like it's the same interval, but just an octave difference. Anyway, regardless, it sounds really cool. It's a really cool harmony. And so, but now let's take a look at what she's actually saying. So we start off with, look at all the time that you wasted. So very cool starting line. It implies to me, that implies like a fast pace. Like we're losing out on time. We got to move faster. We got to go. What's interesting is that she's directing it at someone. She's like pointing the finger at someone. At this stage, it's unclear if she is speaking, like who she's directing it at. She could very easily be talking to herself. She could be talking to us, the listener, or she could be talking to a third party or group of people. Yeah, but we're not sure yet. But the idea is like, okay, we're wasting time. We've got to get moving. The next line is, you could put the fire out at any time. So first off, I have complained about this on some of the other episodes, the use of the word fire. This is actually a pretty cool use of it. This is a pretty unique use of the word fire, in my opinion. Like, you could put the fire out at any time. It's like a quick way to summarize, very quick way to summarize the idea of like, there is a problem here, but you could fix the problem anytime you'd want, right? So rather than the fire being like the focus, it's more of like, okay, it's a quick metaphor to give us an idea of what, to sort of simplify the conflict for us. All right. Like there is you could fix this anytime you wanted. But this also gives us a good story beat. So rather than, again, I like to take the lyrics in chronological order, just because I think that's like a good way to look at a song, right? I mean, we listen to a song chronologically. We start at the beginning of the song and go to the end, and then we judge the quality of the song. It's like, I think it's important to start chronologically and find the places where maybe the song works, where it doesn't work, where it might fall apart, and where we ultimately come up with the determination of like, this is a really good song, or this is a really shit song, So I will kind of retroactively go back and be like, okay, maybe that first interpretation didn't quite make sense. So in this case, I said the first line implies a fast pace. Now we're actually giving a little bit of extra context where it's not so much that we're moving at a fast pace. It's that you are not resolving the issue that you should be resolving. You are avoiding it. Yeah, that's what this means. You could put the fire out at any time, but you're wasting time. And then that gets kind of confirmed in the next line, which is, too afraid to face it, got to fly higher. Which the way that she says higher, that's when she does that harmony. Again, here, hold on, I'm going to play it while I take some water.
One too many secrets to
Nope, too far. You almost miss that she's saying higher. because of the way that she kind of does her little musical improv there, or whatever you want to call it, her little melody at the end. So yeah, the line though is too afraid to face it, got to fly higher. So in this case, you know, we now have it confirmed this person is, or this, whoever it is, again, we don't know who she's directing this at. It could be her, it could be us, it could be third party, but they're too afraid to face the issue, too afraid to, you know, put the fire out. And interesting choice of words here. She says, got to fly higher. I think this is kind of cool because usually that phrase fly higher, or like fly high, it's like a positive phrase. It means like succeed and you know, to improve, right? But in this case, she is she's using it as a way to show the extent to which this person or this subject will avoid putting the fire out or avoid facing the issue. I think it's a cool and purposeful choice of words considering the second verse, which we aren't there yet, but I can take it kind of into account. What this kind of means to me is like, this person is actually flying high, as in succeeding and convincing themselves to succeed as a means of avoiding the fire, which is kind of cool. We might come back to that. But yeah, interesting word choice there. Too afraid to face it, got to fly higher. So then she says, try to keep the animal inside. It's a fine line. We've heard this before, but it's really just saying that like, okay, this subject has a darker side to them. They're trying to keep it from coming out. It's kind of the same thing as the fire, right? You know, there's it, but I think what it's doing is the fire could have been seen as an external issue. This is now like, this is an internal issue that our character is facing. Yeah, I that's it for that line. Try to keep the animal inside. But then we get one too many secrets to hide. So now we get like, okay, our character is starting to crack a little bit. There's this part of themselves, the fire, the animal, whatever you want to call it. It's become, we're losing control of it, right? And they're going to probably need to face it. I mean, essentially what we're getting at is like their sins, their darkness, whatever it is, they're going to have to face it one way or another. And then this kind of gets confirmed, kind of not, but let me discuss it in detail with the next line. She says, and I cannot hold on. So this is cool. This is actually a very important line because I think well, first off, it gives us a subject, right? Or multiple subjects actually. So there's two ways that you can view this, and I'm actually going to approach this simultaneously. I think it's both of these ways kind of moving throughout the whole song. So first, I think this whole verse has been her talking about herself, and now she's getting to the point where she can't deal with it anymore. She can't keep living the way that she's been living, avoiding what's inside. So she is the sinner who has been avoiding her sins, and now she's going to face them. The second way that you can interpret this line, and I cannot hold on, is that she is holding out for a sinner. So this whole verse has been her talking directly to somebody else, and her saying, I cannot hold on, is her kind of coming to this realization of like, you're not changing and I can't keep waiting, right? I can't keep holding out hope that you're going to reform yourself. I actually think that both of these interpretations are true. And I think we'll just keep up with both of them as we continue through the song. But yeah, I think, I think you'll see why I went with this, but these are the two ways that you can take it at this point, right? It's either her talking about herself and how she has sinned and she can't keep hiding all the secrets and keeping the animal inside and all that, or it's her talking about a third party and how she can't keep holding on, waiting for them to change, right? So overall, from a lyrical perspective, this verse is great. This is a great verse. We've set up, we've potentially set up two characters and two conflicts. First being Amy, talking about herself and her struggles with the avoiding problems on her end, but then a potential second struggle of her holding out hope for somebody else to turn around and change, right? So we've got our characters. We have the obstacle, which is that characters are not facing their sins. And then kind of this incoming conflict, which is we're going to need to face them. The secrets are building up. We can't keep hiding them. And so what's going to happen? We don't know yet, but we do know, like, facing your inner demons and like reconciling with yourself, that's a huge psychological hurdle for a lot of people. And I think she captures that really well in with these lyrics and with the way she sings it. It's very tense, it's very stressful and frustrating. And so yeah, we've got characters, we've got a conflict. Great first verse. We're just rolling. So then we get into the next section, the pre-chorus.
Try to keep the animal inside. Hide that I cannot hold on.
Okay, so before we talk about the lyrics, first off, we kind of get this sharp sound coming into the pre-chorus, and then everything cuts out. Those little glitchy sounds, the percussion, everything, and we get a very bare bones pre-chorus. Really, all we have are just these sort of ambient synths. They sound, I would use the word heavenly, but they actually sound a little eerie. Like there's something a bit strange and otherworldly to them if you kind of listen to the notes that they're actually hitting. Like that right there. Right there too. That lower synth, the woo. Yeah. So it's tense, it's weird. And then on top of that, it's almost impossible to understand what Amy's saying. She's like, you could say she sounds like she's in another dimension, maybe a cough, cough, heaven, haha. Yeah, but she's singing in a very beautiful, lovely tone. Lot of reverb, but you can't really understand her. So let's go see what she actually says. So she says, "I alone will this divine, my holy calling." So these are very interesting lyrics. So let's talk about this first line. I alone will this divine. So what this means is that I alone, I will this divine. So using the power of her will, she will bring about divinity. I think it's the nature of this divinity at this stage of the song is a little ambiguous, and what that could mean, we'll see. It could be bringing about the divine within herself or within others, or let's keep going, but just know that something's happened to her in this pre-chorus where now she is, bringing to life this divinity. That was not a pun, by the way. I didn't mean that. That's funny. Then she says, but this is the more important line, I think, is my holy calling. So now we have confirmation. She has found some type of a divine purpose. But we don't know what it is yet, but we'll get to it. But yeah, I think this pre-chorus is like the little sleeper hit of this song. It's kind of, blink and you miss it type of section. It's very important though. I mean, the first half of the song is her, like I said, two interpretations. It's her and then a third party. And I think with that first interpretation, it's her struggling in the first verse with her own sins, her secrets, the animal inside and the fire, and her avoiding her own problems. But then she can't keep doing that. She can't keep holding on to it all. And now we get a pretty significant change with her where now it's like, oh, she's got a holy calling. There's something that's happened. Yeah, this section overall, though, super kind of angelic, but in a little bit of an eerie way. She's going to mention light throughout this song, especially in the chorus. I think that this is that moment. This is the light that she's referring to in the chorus. I don't think this is like the full on rapture, which, I mean, if you know what a rapture is, it's where all of the people of God are brought up into heaven while all of the sinners and degenerates are left down in hell to, essentially live in hell on earth. But I don't think that this is necessarily the rapture moment yet, because there's kind of a moment that's pretty conspicuously the rapture moment. But this seems like somewhat of a vision or a calling or something that she's experienced, a life-changing moment that has given her renewed purpose. Honestly, given how short this section is, it's like very intriguing how vital it is to the plot, in my opinion. I mean, this is like what signifies the change between her in the first verse and her in the chorus. And really, this section is the subject of the chorus, at least the first half of the chorus. So, yeah, like I didn't even know what she said whenever I listened to this song casually. It wasn't until I started doing my notes for the breakdown that I looked at all of the lyrics, and it's just interesting. This is kind of why I like doing these breakdowns too. You know, there's all these things that you might miss, and examine your songs closely, guys. If you really like a song, look at the lyrics, go and read them. There might be things that you miss. Go through it section by section. I was doing this before I started doing this show. This show is based on something that I was just doing on my own. I just thought it would be kind of cool to make it like long form content, you know? And this is a perfect example. You could just, like I said, blink and you miss it. It's a very short section. How long is it? Hold on. This section is roughly 12 seconds. 12 seconds, and it's like vital to the plot. It's like her actually getting the calling, the holy calling for whatever she's going to do in the rest of the song, which we will find out. But yeah, really cool. So with this new holy calling and a sense of renewed purpose, we get the chorus. So I'm going to let that play. Cool. Okay, so, all right, we've got our chorus. So everything slams in on this chorus, but not necessarily in like a triumphant way, which is what we've gotten on some of the other songs. Like everything slams in, it's big, epic, triumphant chorus. This chorus is dark. It's still kind of eerie, and in fact, it's heavy, but not in like the cultural sense. I mean more in like the original definition of the word of like this chorus has weight to it. It seems to just be like big and like stiff almost, like just like the drums are doing this kind of boom bap, like just slow kick, slow snare, and there's a little bit of a clap on the snare too. It's the type of thing that it's all like We Will Rock You, boom, boom, But what's cool about the drums is that there is like this consistent closed hi-hat going all throughout, which again, tense. That's like the name of the game with this song. Just, you can hear it. Listen for it here. It's not exactly straight 16th notes, but it's like regardless, there is a closed hi-hat playing, and it's just kind of in the background as like a little bit of extra tense percussion. There are also percussive synth glitches all throughout, which again we had in that first verse. The word I would use is it sounds like the song is overloading. Again, maybe that'll come in later. But yeah, this is a very specific sound that this song has, is these glitchy synths. So pay attention for those. Very subtle, but you can hear them like waka waka. They almost kind of like a waka waka sound, like a Ewok or something. Just ignore me. Okay, cool. Now regarding the guitars, something that I've complained about from Jordan Fish and Zach Cervini throughout all the times I've covered this album is their production style when it comes to the guitars. I don't really like the way that they have the tone. I don't like the tone that they choose, and I certainly don't like the how bloated they are. My biggest critique is that they make it hard to hear Amy's harmonies on various songs, but this song, it actually works. So again, this song is meant to be very dense and tense, and so that like bloated, dense sound of the guitars actually lends itself to giving this chorus a claustrophobic, like contained, frustrated, like again, like boiling sensation. So yeah, like it's kind of, I think that's more of coincidence than anything, but yeah, that really dense, low, mid-rangey sound that the guitars have actually benefits this song, whereas some of the more like epic and triumphant songs, I feel like it not quite as good, it didn't quite fit as well, but here it works great. I mean, listen to how this chorus comes in, and you're immediately like, it's big and it's heavy, but it still has that tension. Listen for it. Hear how low those guitars are, just they almost sound like 808s or something, just like distorted 808s on like rap songs. So yeah, it actually fits on this song, so nice. My favorite, this is, now I'm going through all the different elements just so y'all know, but there is a synth that comes in right around like the 49-second mark that it's like this upward bending synth that almost sounds like an alarm. It's kind of in the left ear or left speaker. Listen for that. You hear that? It's like do. I think that's the note it's hitting. Forgive my singing, but hear that? Super cool. That's a really cool little touch. They only do it on that first half of each chorus. But I think it's such a cool way to me, it sounds like an alarm. It sounds like one of those sirens that you'd hear, if like you're like a prison siren or something, like something really bad, like on an existential level is happening, or a military base siren, like not but just, you know what I mean? That long, ominous siren that you hear on like in prisons or something like that. Which again, this chorus is not triumphant. It's not pleasant. This is a dark, dense chorus. It's very foreboding. So with all of that said, that's kind of the scene that we've set. Let's talk about Amy real quick. So her harmonies on this chorus are fantastic. Yeah, it's almost like a church choir or something, especially these first few lines. So the first few lines in the first half, and then the first few lines of the second half. Listen for them. She's just got a ton of harmonies there. I'm not even going to try to pick them all out. There's maybe like 5 or 6 harmonies, or at least 5 or 6 takes. Yeah, it's huge. It sounds epic. Awesome choir. And then all of the other lines also have harmonies, but not quite as many. It's more of like 1 or 2. Like right there's a low octave harmony. Out of dark, I finally found the light. Saw the light, sorry. And there you get a couple of harmonies. I think it's like, sounds like some thirds, maybe, just like slightly higher, but with a much softer tone so that the lead still sticks out. And it's and Let It Take Me. Yeah, it's cool too, because she's the lead is like, and let it take me, but then the harmonies seem to go down, like, and let it take me. Listen for that again. Yeah, and let it take me. That's really cool. It's, again, dark and gritty. Love it. Yeah, cool. And then there's a repeat. Yeah, those harmonies just sound great. So overall, I mean, Amy sounds awesome. She always sounds awesome, but yeah, the melody that she's singing and with the additional harmonies still keeps that really tense, darker tone that we're going for. So now let's talk about the lyrics. So again, up to this point, we've had kind of two narratives going. And again, I'm going to kind of keep these two narratives running simultaneously. So one of them is the first verse is her talking about herself and her having trouble of facing her own issues, whether it be the animal inside, secrets to hide, all of that. She's had trouble holding on to that. But then she has a moment where, which is the pre-chorus, where she essentially experiences like a divine vision or whatever you want to call it. And she has her new holy calling, as she puts it. She wills the divine into her life and has a holy calling. So maybe she's turning away from, she's facing her issues, whatever you want to call it, from the first verse. Second narrative is that she's talking directly to another character, and how she can't hold on to them, waiting for them to face their problems, which they keep avoiding. They're too afraid to face. So those are our two narratives coming into the chorus. So this first line, she says, I saw the light, I saw the light. So to me, this is just confirmation. The pre-chorus was absolutely a change for her. She has now seen the light, experienced a divine vision or a divine experience, whatever you want to call it, or willed divinity into her life. However you want to interpret it, she has had a profound change as a result of what I would say is the pre-chorus. She then says, out of the dark, I finally saw the light. To me, this is confirmation of the first narrative, which is that she was the one who was struggling morally, struggling with, again, the animal inside, too many secrets to hide, all of that. I do think that that verse applies to her just as much as it applies to a third party. And I think this is confirmation. Out of the dark, I finally saw the light. So she came out of the darkness and sees clearly. Now, I think this also works with the second interpretation, where you could say she's holding out hope. You could say that, she saw the light, which means that she's, you could say she's giving up hope on this third party. That's fine. I think that works too, but I personally find it a little more compelling that it's someone else. It's not someone else's darkness. It's her darkness that she is changing. I don't know. That maybe now that I'm thinking about it, especially with the way in the pre-chorus she says, I alone will this divine. Maybe the second interpretation is better. Maybe she's coming out of somebody else's darkness. I don't know. You decide, listener. You decide. And then she says, and I let it take me. So yeah, I saw the light, out of the dark. I finally saw the light. I let it take me. So yeah, cool. So this is just, again, emphasizing there has been a huge change. So she says, lifted my head with open eyes. So again, this is her with her new holy calling. I think you could say, again, she's changed her perspective. She's faced her issues, and then also maybe she sees this third party subject more clearly as well, which then is kind of confirmed with the next line where she says, you're going to drown in all the tears that we cried. So, let me just finish it out. So she says, you're going to drown, lifted my head with open eyes. You're going to drown in all the tears that we cried, and I can feel the rapture. All right. So that you're going to drown in all the tears that we cried, that to me is confirmation of there being a third party. So that narrative applies as well. But what I find kind of interesting is that she says, you're going to drown in all the tears that we cried. So this isn't my view of at this point is that she's speaking for a group of people. Now, again, I know if she's talking about a singular individual who she's probably talking about, but I already kind of discussed that on another song on Sanctuary. To me, this song, the way that it's all structured, seems to be more talking about a group of individuals or a group of people, people who are unwilling to face, the darkness within them or whatever you want to call it. And in this case, with this line in particular, you're going to drown in all the tears that we cried. This is not like a hopeful message. This is not a message of repentance. This is letting the subject know that they're going to reap the appropriate consequences for their sin. And I think, one way to look at it as well is that maybe this is part of her holy calling, right? Is like she's maybe presented as the messenger, right? She is going to be the voice that announces the rapture, so to speak, right? Like she's here to let you know. And she says, and I can feel the rapture, right? So she, metaphorically, she knows that the day of judgment is coming for these people. She can feel it coming. I think something that's interesting here too is that she's not necessarily sounding, I don't think she sounds particularly holier than thou on this chorus. Again, saying like, out of the dark, I finally saw the light. To me, she's a sinner, just like she's a sinner herself, but she faced up to it. She owned up to it, and now she's changed. She is addressing the people who are not going to repent, and who are the ones who will be left behind in the rapture. So, yeah, overall, pretty cool chorus. Really solid chorus. It's epic and huge, but also very dark. It confirms that, these two narratives that I've been talking about, one being Amy, she's changed from a first person perspective. She has, seen the light. She is no longer going to continue going through the darkness. But now her holy calling, to some degree, could be said, she's going to call out. She's here to announce the rapture, so to speak, for all the people who are not willing to face up to their wrongdoings. And so that's kind of cool. She's like the little messenger to let them know that the judgment is coming. And that's kind of that's like our song topic there. The rapture is the moment of judgment for the people who are too afraid to face up to what they've done. So where is this going to go? Let's see. We jump right into verse 2. Like there is no post-chorus or anything. We just keep going. So I'm going to let that play and get some water because my voice, holy shit. Okay, so we get verse 2. The music is essentially the same as verse 1, at least from it has all of the same elements that were in verse 1, but now we've just added on the drums and some chugging guitars. Nothing too crazy, but it does keep the momentum going after the chorus, which was pretty huge. One thing that I think is kind of cool here with how they do that, because I was wondering, I was like, why wouldn't they put any sort of a post-chorus? And it's because, a song like this. So this song reminds me of Overflow by Linkin Park off of their latest album. It's a very similar song structure and a similar vibe where it's this constant boiling tension up to a certain point. And this song definitely has a moment where things explode, right? And Overflow did as well. I think what's important on a song like that, if you're going to make a song that is this sort of, slow ramp up in tension, is you have to be very economical with the sections that you put in. So whereas in most songs, they might have had like a big heavy riff after the first chorus or something like that, this song, they are doing a good job maintaining that like slow boil. Because even the chorus was big and epic, but it didn't but it was still tense. It was still claustrophobic and tense and dark. It didn't feel like to me, it didn't feel like an explosion, right? It didn't feel like the shit was hitting the fan quite yet. And so in this case, it's like that they're being careful about that. So yeah, they're okay. We just had all the instruments come in. It's a relative high with the chorus. Let's just keep that simmer going. Let's go straight into the verse and let's have those guitars chugging. Let's kind of, nothing too crazy on the drums. Keep the eerie piano and everything. And Amy's vocal melody is essentially the same too. She does sing with just a little bit more oomph on the second verse just to match up with the guitars and drums, since the intensity overall is higher. But yeah, in general, like she's singing the same thing. So that's just like an interesting way to view a song like this, where we're slowly building up. It's like you kind of have to be careful about adding a lot of sections in, or how you're how you're structuring the song, because you could mess up that tension, right? You could mess, it's a fine line, right? Like you want there to be the slow ramp up, but if you're too slow, you could mess up the flow of the song and the listener can get a little bored, or it could feel stale, right? Or you could just mess up, you could kind of take away from the fact that the song is so tense, because the idea, hypothetically, is that that tension is building to something and you really want to capitalize on that release of tension once you get to that climax. I wonder if this song does that. We'll just have to see. But with that said, let's go into the second verse lyrics. So she says, "Sinners, make your way to the altar." Kind of a cool line. Sinners plural. So again, I do, to me, this song, at least at this point, is very much about like her speaking collectively for a group of people. Like she is the messenger of the rapture, right? Like she is the, what is the, I can't remember what the hell it's called. I don't know. Whatever. She is the one who is announcing the rapture, right? And so she is telling the sinners like, hey, you need to come to the altar. Now that could mean many things. That could be, they could be coming to the altar to repent. They could be coming to the altar to be judged, whether that's by her or someone else, kind of ambiguous. I've sort of leaned towards it being her, because that would be part of her divine calling, as she put it. I don't know, but that's kind of my interpretation of it. She then says, "Heavy is the crown, bloody is the jewel." So in this case, we have these people coming to the altar to be judged, and she's judging them. She's observing their sins. She's identifying that, the people in power, they get there by committing atrocities. Heavy is the crown. Heavy is the crown is kind of a cool phrase, interesting phrase to use here, because usually that talks about the sort of, the word is escaping me, the burden, right? So it's usually an almost an empathetic phrase to use for people who are in a position of power, that there is a burden of power upon them. And if they have a conscience or a soul, that burden will weigh on them. And that is the weight of the crown, right? In this case, though, she is kind of using it to describe like, these people are not innocent. They have guilt on their consciousness, which is cool. Kind of a cool way to, use that common heavy as the crown metaphor, but in a way that's a little bit unique. It's like, yeah, the crown is heavy because you've done bad things, And then bloody as the jewel is essentially the same thing. Just a little bit more, it's a little more self-explanatory in my opinion. But then she says, "Money is the god that you answer to." Honestly, I do think that this line's just a little too on the nose. It's like, okay, we got it with like the bloody is the jewel, right? Like the idea behind bloody is the jewel is that you don't get the jewels, aka the money, if you don't commit some atrocities. But now it's like money is the god that you answer to. It's like, all right, it's fine. I don't think the line has a whole lot of nuance. It's just very like, you're greedy, Okay. But then she says, when will it be enough? This also is fine. You could say, like, my view on this is maybe she's trying to sway some people. Maybe as the sinners come to the altar and she is doing her divine judgment, she is trying to sort of sway them a little bit. Maybe there's some people who feel the burden of the crown, who have guilt on their consciousness or guilt on their conscience, who would actually be willing to repent and face up to what they've done. But it could also just be rhetorical. She could also just be saying, you know, at what point is, you know, how much money is enough money, right? So that's fine. But then she says, you can't even look me in the eyes, afraid of the reflection you'd find in mine. So in this case, the way that I view it, and specifically her saying, afraid of the reflection you'd find in mine, obviously there's the implication of, like, I look in the mirror, like, these people are afraid to face who they are, therefore the mirror, they are afraid to face their own reflection, right? They know that they're sinners, they know that they're wrong and that they've committed atrocities, but they can't face up to it. But I find it interesting that she phrases it like, look me in the eyes and look at the reflection in my eyes. I think that that's kind of maybe this is me fan fictioning, but I think that that's her acknowledging that, like, she was able to repent too from the first verse. I'm still going with that. I'm still going with that interpretation. I think it's cool. I think it's a cool way to think of the interpretation. And she does say in the chorus, out of the dark, I finally saw the light. So I don't think it's ridiculous to think that she's sort of showing them, like, hey, I changed. Why can't you? I'm facing up to my shit. Why aren't you facing up to your shit? So it's not just that you're afraid of the reflection, you're afraid of the reflection that you find in my eyes, because you know that I have actually done, you know, what I should be doing and what you should be doing, but you're avoiding, right? She then says, because I see right through your lies, which, again, this is just a little redundant. Like, I see right through your eyes. You're greedy and bad and you're lying, and I see right through it. There's just not a lot of nuance. It's a perfectly fine line. I'm not trying to, I'm not hating too much, but it's very blatant. And especially if you go back and you look at that first verse, right? You know, like that, look at all the time that you wasted. You could put the fire out at any time. Like, those two lines on their own did a whole lot of work, right? Like they really set up a whole lot of conflict and everything. And then this just feels kind of like, okay, yeah, like, I see through your lies. Cool. Again, it's not killing me, but it is sort of a, not quite, I think it could have just been a little better, but it's not bad. It fits perfectly. Overall though, this second verse, I think is just a little bit of a downgrade from the first verse. It's fine. We're expanding on the conflict. She's judging the sinners. They're afraid to look in her eyes. They're afraid to, you know, see what they lack in Amy, which is, you know, specifically like a conscience, right? Yeah, I mean, this verse is fine. She spends the first half calling out oh my God. She spends the first half calling out blatant corruption and greed, and then the second half of the verse highlighting that these sinners are too afraid to face the sins in front of her. Yeah, cool. I think that this is all fine. So let's go to the next section. Well, the next section is just the chorus, which is the same. So we can kind of just skip over that. But now she's been talking about, okay, the rapture is impending, and she ends the second chorus with, and I feel the rapture. She's been building up to it. She tried to judge these people, maybe even saved a few, and she asked, you know, when will it be enough? But there are still those who can't even look her in the eye. They can't face their sins. And now we get sort of what, you know, what in my opinion is the damn rapture. So let's let it play. Yeah, so that is nuts. So this is presumably the Rapture, and it is nuts. I usually don't like breakdowns. I've done multiple, I've said this in many videos that I'm not a big fan of breakdowns, but I do have to say, this is a very unique sounding breakdown to me, and it actually kind of, it's actually working for me in a big way. First off, again, thematically, this represents the Rapture. So we already have this, a big part of this. I mean, the name of the song is this apocalyptic event, right? And so I feel like it would be a little, it would fall flat if we don't actually deliver on that, right? Like there needs to be that apocalyptic event. And this feels like the whole thing is just like, it feels like complete and total destruction and overload. What's cool is that they've set up the little digital elements throughout the song. Like there's the glitches that that's been part of the tension. This breakdown is very synth heavy, and it sounds kind of like the culmination of all of that, right? Like just everything is just going crazy, like the digital overload as you would have it. But then there is still real drums, and there's a cool little guitar motif, excuse me. The guitars are also doing some pretty cool stuff. There's like the little harmonics that they hit, the pick scraped harmonics are like, scraping down the strings. Let's see, I think it's about right here. There it is. So that's actually guitars. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool use of like natural guitar harmonics. Halfway through, there is a piano that comes in, but even the piano gets warped and detuned and messed with. But I do think it's cool having that soft, eerie piano from the verses still kind of, in there with us. Yeah, listen to that piano. Right here. Here, so and then it gets DJ, and then we get these little piano notes to kind of bring us out of this. Very, very cool way to kind of tie this crazy nutso breakdown in with the musical elements from the verse. Because this does feel like, so far this song really has only been, I shouldn't say that, there's been a small pre-chorus, but it's really mainly been verses and choruses, and the chorus is just huge and distorted. And so the verse, anyway, what I'm saying is that this doesn't feel like a separate thing from the rest of the song. This feels very much in line with what we've established musically with the song, and lyrically and thematically with the song too. This is the Rapture, here it is. It's not going to be pleasant. Like, it's not going to be fun. It's dark and ridiculous. So yeah, one last thing to note about this is that she actually does sing in this breakdown. She says, "Let it take me," but she sings it very soft and very almost kind of pleasant. Here, hold on, let me back it up so you can hear her sing it. Yeah, there it is. Let it take me. To me, that represents most likely Amy's character getting taken away in the Rapture. Like she is happy to be going. Like she's going. And then she says, "Oh, let me go." So yeah, something to note is that the first line is in the left ear, and then the second line is kind of center right. So I think few ways you could interpret these, her saying, "Let me go, let it take me, let me go." It could mean her, it could be two different voices, right? So the first one is her getting taken up, and then the second one could be maybe one of the sinners or the representation of the sinners begging to be taken in the Rapture, but they will unfortunately not be. The second way I think you could look at it is Amy sort of maybe still hoping to be freed of the darkness that had sort of captured her, that she speaks about in the chorus. I don't know. Both kind of work. It's a lot to look into on these two kind of small lines, but I think it's important that she's singing them in this section. It is, there's still conflict happening on a lyrical level, even as this ridiculous nutso breakdown is going on. So yeah, overall though, this is a pretty sweet climax. I think this releases a lot of the tension that's been building up through the song. While still, again, staying dark and intense. It matches the tone and the vibe of the rest of the song very well. So yeah, it sounds like the end of the world, which is how it should sound. So then we get into this verse bridge. Let's go there. Or a vocal bridge. Oh, hold on. It's got a ways to go. Here we go. Okay. So for this vocal bridge, everything cuts out and we just kind of get these big heavenly synths. Honestly, there's this, it sounds almost like an organ to me at the very beginning. Listen to the very beginning, you'll hear it. Hear that? Like it sounds like a heavenly organ. She also has these little background harmonies underneath too. Listen for her vocals here. Yeah, so those sound great. I mean, to me, this is like the heaven. This is like post-rapture Amy up in heaven, speaking back down to the people who have been left behind. Pretty cool. Let's see what she's saying. So she says, I'm giving back all the shame I carried for you. So I mentioned at the beginning that there's a problem I had with the song, and spoiler alert, it's this bridge. So she says, I'm giving back all the shame I carried for you. So this is okay for now. This is fine. She says like, it was like, it's just okay. The song is definitely about shame, right? It's about not being able to face face yourself in the mirror, not being able to own up to what you've done, etc. But what's strange, what kind of I found strange in this line was that her drawing that connection between her and the sinners. Now, with that said, we can go back to that verse 1, those multiple interpretations. And one of those interpretations was that she had been holding out for the sinners. Like she said, and I can't, what did she say specifically? One too many secrets to hide, and I cannot hold on. So again, one of those interpretations was Amy. But the second one was Amy not being able, a third party, and Amy not being able to hold out, waiting for these sinners to change. This line seems kind of strange, though, even with that interpretation, because she's saying that she carried the shame. So that kind of brings up a few questions. Like, does the shame, did her shame originate from the sinners? Or when she says, well, that's what's strange to me. If the shame originated from the sinners, I guess that makes sense. I mean, she's coming out of the dark, but again, though, I think that the out of the dark, that to me sounded like her own sins. Like she was able to face the darkness within her, but I don't know. Now she's saying that all the shame that she had was carried from someone else. Now, does that mean that, now I think another way you could look at it is, did the shame, I feel like I'm saying shame a lot. Do you know the thing you say the word so many times, it like starts to sound weird? Let me be a little more concise. Either she's saying that the shame that she felt came from others, so didn't necessarily originate from her, or she's saying that she had shame for them. So she didn't feel the shame herself, but she had shame for the other people, and maybe she was carrying that as a burden, and now she's releasing it. Does that distinction make sense? So what I'm saying is she felt shame herself, but that purely came from someone else, or she had shame for someone else. Like she looked down on them and like she thought they were shameful, and now she's releasing herself of that burden. That's kind of the two ways that I would take this line. And then now, obviously like via the rapture, like they are now going to experience the shame that she has been feeling towards them, or that she has been carrying for them, experience because of them, right? I think that this is interesting. Like all of this is kind of interesting, but the truth is it just does come off as just a tad bit clunky to me. It just seems like, well, you know what? Let's dive into it after this next line, because I think this next line is actually kind of the problem line. So she says, "I'm giving back all the shame I carried for you. Now tell the truth just like you taught me to." So this, I'm going to be honest, this to me doesn't really seem to work. This seems to imply like, now tell the truth just like you taught me to. Throughout this whole song, from my view, she has been addressing a broad group of sinners, right? I don't think that it's been, to me, it hasn't felt like a specific individual. I know that maybe you can interpret it that way, but even if it was aimed at a specific individual, there was no connection between that individual and Amy. And now she's saying, oh, this person taught her to tell the truth. What this makes me immediately think is like parents. Like, is she talking about her parents here? And so this line, it's not an inconsequential line. It's the climax. It's the last unique lyric that we get. And so, I think the idea of like, now tell the truth, that makes sense to me. Like, okay, she is now forcing them to own up to their mistakes. Like, you are now in the rapture. You now, like, I am going to make you tell the truth. Like, cause that is my role, right? As messenger of the rapture or whatever. Like you're going to own up, or it doesn't even need to be tell the truth. It's you're going to own up to your mistakes now, whether you acknowledge them or not. That part makes sense. It's the part where she whispers, just like you taught me to. That's strange to me. Like on one hand, like to me, it's like the whole song hasn't really been geared towards a specific individual. And even if it has, it doesn't seem like there's been a personal connection between her and the individual. But now she's establishing that this person has taught her to tell the truth. That doesn't quite make sense. I mean, and when you think about like who teaches you to tell the truth or not, it's usually like your parents, your family members, maybe a teacher that you've had, or a mentor, or it could be like your ex-boyfriend or something. I don't know. But it just kind of seems to come out of nowhere. And as like the big line, right? Like it's the climactic line. It seems to throw in this weird plot point that maybe I'm just missing, and I'm not quite understanding it, And then listen to the way that she says it too. It's not like she's, it sounds personal. It's like, that seems like it should be very important with that delivery, and yet it doesn't quite make sense with the rest of the song. Who has taught her to tell the truth? You know what it might be? Sorry, I just had this. Maybe these people, by not facing their issues, taught her to face her issues. I think that works. Okay. Sorry. I just had a big old, I'm having revelations now. It's funny. I'll sit and do it usually takes me about 2.5 hours, 2 to 2.5 hours to make my notes for these songs. I take pretty comprehensive notes. And I just was staring at this line. I was like, I don't understand it. I don't get what this line means. But now that just clicked for me. Okay, so sorry, I need to backtrack now that I'm like seeing it differently. So I'm giving back all the shame I carried for you. Again, I talked about that line. Now tell the truth just like you taught me to. And I think that that's a perfectly applicable interpretation to say, I learned to tell the truth by watching you lie. So you liars, how deceitful and terrible you people have been, has taught me how important it is to be honest with myself and be truthful. And therefore she saw the light. Okay, cool. All right. You know what? I stand corrected right here live on the episode. This was like the one issue. I was like, why is she talking about her parents? You know, like don't lie, Amy. Like that's who would do that. So nope. Okay, cool. Look, y'all, I do my best. All right. I'm not perfect. But this is okay. Cool. Yeah. This song's great. Now that was the one problem I had with this song. Now I'm pretty much, pretty cool with this song. Okay. Hold on. I need a drink. But there we go. So that's cool. And actually, you know what? Now that I wish I had caught this when I was doing my notes, because now I'm connecting the dots. There we have our two parallel stories, right? Amy, or the two parallels of the third party who won't acknowledge their mistakes and Amy who did acknowledge her mistakes, and how these two paths are kind of intersecting. And then via the rapture, Amy is allowed to go up, and then this person stays below and is forced to face their consequences, but it's kind of too late at this point. Like you're screwed. The rapture's happened. And now she's kind of, as she's up in heaven here, she's kind of looking back down and explaining, like, I'm no longer going to feel shameful. I'm releasing my shame. I'm releasing any shame that I felt for you or because of you or whatever. And also now you have to fucking eat dirt. And I don't, because I watched how you lie. I watched how you ended up in this situation, and you were too afraid to see that for yourself. And so that's actually a really great like culmination of those two paths, that parallel story that we set up in the first verse. So sweet, cool. That makes me feel, I felt like a crazy person talking about these parallel verse 1 interpretations, but that makes sense to me. So hey, we are good. I have all these fucking notes and they don't mean anything anymore. I was going to talk about like the issues with it or whatever, but it works for me now. So, hey, okay, we can just keep moving and we can keep moving it right along. Cool climax. Yeah. Really good climax. Finishes out the story and kind of drives the point home of like, hey, if you're a sinner, maybe you should acknowledge it. And if you're, not a sinner, just take a look at the sinners and see what not to do. You can learn a lot from them. So kind of cool. Okay. Let's go to the next section, which isn't even really a section. Yeah, it's this little bridge in between the climax and the third chorus. Yeah. Cool. So that I wanted to highlight this little thing because it is like, it's very small, but it is like an extra 2-beat section that they purposefully put in there. It sounds really cool. It's just kind of like boom, boom. Oh. And yeah, I think it's there's like this kind of, I don't want to say sinister element to Amy in this song, but there's definitely this element of like righteous judgment type of deal, And I think that that's what this section feels like. It's like that final ultimate righteous judgment, because that choir sounds aggressive, boom, boom. Oh, it sounds aggressive. Listen to it. Yeah, it's cool. And it's a cool way to accent that climax of like, I'm going to heaven, you're screwed, peace out. And then it gets us back to the chorus where she gets to proclaim again. At this point, it just sounds like she's bragging. Out of dark, I finally found the light, or saw the light, and let it take me. This chorus is the same as the other choruses. The only difference is that the guitars are playing consistent 16th notes as opposed to big open chords. So here I can play that difference for you. Now compare that to the first chorus, which is 45. Here's the third one again. It's tough to hear, but you can hear those guitars going do 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 do. That's the only difference. The drums do have a few more extra fills just to build the intensity, but that's generally it. But this music keeps going into the next section, which is the outro, the like little outro guitar solo. And you can hear those chugging guitars a little bit clearer, actually. So here, pay attention to them here. What the hell? My timestamp is wrong. Fuck. Hear those rhythms? Do, 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 do. Yeah, so again, background music stays the same. This is really just like an extension of the chorus. But you get this eerie lead guitar that comes in. It doesn't do anything particularly spectacular, but it works well. It's creepy, and it's a cool way to kind of cap off the song. And the note choices are cool too. It doesn't repeat itself twice. It chooses different notes on the second half, which I liked. There are a few like choir effects, like glitchy choir effects that come in and out towards the end. You can hear them about right here. There it is. Sorry. Okay, let me back it up. There it is. There. I felt like there were more. Hold on. I don't know. Maybe I'm just missing them. Anyway, regardless, you also have Amy kind of saying, "Can you feel the rapture?" And then at the very end, she says, "I can feel the rapture." I don't think this has like super crazy thematic value. I think it's just kind of like ending the song, you know, on a strong note. And then, yeah, we get a fade out, which funnily enough, I actually felt like was worth pointing out, considering there's a lot of songs on this album that just sort of cut off at the end, which I kind of hate. It sort of drives me nuts. If anything, I feel like, what was it? Sanctuary. I felt like Sanctuary should have held out rather than this one. I feel like this song would have been cooler to just kind of cut off. But whatever, we get some nice vocal delay and then reverb holding out for a second. And that's it. We did it. We made it to the end of the song. Another one bites the dust. Cool. So yeah, overall, I really like this song. It's fun. Again, some of my notes, I sort of just have to disregard some of my notes now because they were talking about how I wasn't a fan of that climax, but I've since changed my opinion after doing this episode. Yeah, this song is awesome though. Overall, like the musical elements are extremely cool. It's very tense, very like foreboding and eerie. They nail that idea of like building the tension the whole song, and then they nail that release of the tension with the breakdown. You know, I'm not a fan of breakdowns, but that's a cool fucking breakdown, man. They put a lot of work into that. It is like super overloaded. Like it really walks that line between total overload, or there's just all these crazy, like there's one part where the synth like glitchy sound does like a triplet, and I remember thinking like, how are they making that work, like having the triplet while something else is doing 16th notes? And it's, if you just listen to each of those little elements, there's so much there. It's a really impressive breakdown. Really cool. So, and then lyrically, yeah, again, this parallel of, you know, are you going to face up to your wrongdoings or are you not? Are you going to look in the mirror and face the light, so to speak, and see the light? Or are you going to hide from it and run away from it? And the truth is, ultimately, you're going to have to face it. It's just that you might face it in a way that's not so pleasant, you know? And that's what the rapture ultimately is a metaphor for. So yeah, very, very cool stuff. That's kind of overall, but let's do the final little template that I have for where I analyze each part, the mix and the structure and all that, or give a summary real quick, and then we can close out the episode. Or actually, we're not going to close out the episode. I do have an extra little theory section I'm going to do at the end of this, but we'll get there. So first and foremost, one of the things I like to look at is the telos of the song, which is the purpose. Why was this song made? So to me, this song was an example of like, they had an actual creative idea and they wanted to execute on it. And that was having this dark, eerie song that just builds and builds until it finally like explodes. And they use the rapture as the sort of metaphor to justify this type of song. And they just, that's what they wanted to do. This doesn't feel like a song that they would write to be a single. This feels like they actually had some type of creative vision for it that they wanted to execute on, and they did. The genre is modern metal. This is just pretty normal modern metal. The song structure is very standard. It's just the only unique thing to me is that they have a pre-chorus at the beginning, but then they remove it on the second after the second verse. But what's cool about that is that the pre-chorus, having that single pre-chorus after the first verse, actually plays a very important role in how the song plays out, because that is like Amy's moment of revelation, so to speak, where she receives her wills into existence her holy calling. So yeah, that was a good structural change. But aside from that, you just have verse, chorus, breakdown, bridge, chorus, outro. Nothing too crazy. Compositionally, I'm sorry, give me just one moment. I need to drink some water. So compositionally, that's where this song shines. This song is exceptional on a compositional level. The verse, piano, and synths are great, super weird and eerie and otherworldly. Really build that tension. The guitars all throughout the song are very driving without being too over the top. They kind of do exactly what they need to do all throughout. And then from a melodic perspective, this is probably some of Amy's best work on the album, especially the verses. I think that those verses are like again, when I was listening through the album and I got through the first 3 songs, I was like, yeah, this is fine. This is all fine. These verses basically just grabbed me and pulled me right back into the album. I was like, holy shit. Like, these are really cool. The way that she's using her rhyme schemes and her harmonies to accentuate certain notes. And then just the singing, the display of vocal skill, hi, which you can tell it's skilled because I can't fucking do it. So yeah, it's just cool. Like, it's such an interesting melody that she has there on those verses. Very captivating. So yeah, it was great. The breakdown is awesome. And then, so we have this crazy high highs, but then the low lows, these heavenly, and not low in terms of quality, but like in terms of intensity, where everything cuts out. And we just have these heavenly sections that contrast this like brutal, glitchy, tense, bulk of the song, right? A lot of cool dynamics happening there, and they all work really well. So yeah, from a musical perspective, this probably is the best song on the album, or at the very least one of them. This is a very, very good song. And to cap it all off, they've got a little guitar solo at the end, which, I mean, hey, I'm always down for some more guitar solos. Regarding the mix of this song, this is one of the few cases where the Fish Cervini bloated muddy metal mix actually kind of works. This song is dense and tense and claustrophobic in nature. And so it actually sort of makes sense to have those guitars feel big and like weighty to them, So I like thinking of stuff like this. They definitely didn't plan this, but you almost think of like it's weighing the people down. They're not able to go up to heaven because they're being weighed down by the guitars. That's why it works thematically well, I would say. And just something I don't know, I just thought of that. But anyway, yeah, the mix works on this song. Lyrically speaking, yeah, Amy uses the rapture as a metaphor for to tell this story of her coming to terms with her darkness, and in fact, seeing the light and changing herself, but then also as a way to judge, which she then goes on to judge the people who are not facing the darkness. In the plot of the song, she is raptured up into heaven and she looks down and says, sucks to suck. And that's that, right? And that kind of brings us into the theme. So the big thematic idea here is that obviously facing your mistakes, facing the darker parts of yourself, telling the truth, really, that's really what it's about. Don't lie to yourself, don't lie to others, and because there are consequences to that. And in this case, it is you will be raptured, right? Amy's gonna cast the bolt of judgment onto you. Essentially though, seriously, it's a cool theme. Basically being honest with yourself, being honest with others. Don't and not the honesty isn't just the whole thing. You need to actually change the behavior, right? So you can't just be honest, like, yep, I'm greedy, and then that's that. You're all good. It's like, no. You can't make money your God. Don't make money your God. Don't get the bloody jewel, right? So cool. Yeah, that's the theme. And so that kind of brings us to the final verdict. Again, I can't fucking read any of this because I talked about that climax and how it didn't hit, but now it does hit. I do like the climax. So yeah, basically this song is awesome. It's a great song. Very, very focused, very intentional with everything that they did. You can tell that they had a very specific vision that they were going for. They absolutely nailed it. Managed to make me like a breakdown, which is pretty cool. I usually think breakdowns are like bottom of the barrel writing, but hey, if you're going to call your song Rapture, you should probably have something that is befitting of that word, at least some type of climax or section. And I think that they did that. I think that breakdown is awesome. So yeah, overall, this is great. Great song. Kind of the standout on the album for me in a lot of ways. The album is really good, but, well, I shouldn't say the album is good. It's a mixed bag. There's some good, some bad, mostly good. I'm leaning towards like a 6, like it's an above average. I know everyone's gonna hate me for that. I know, but like to me, like a 7, 8, 9. A 7's above, like 5 is average. That's a perfectly fine album. 6 is above average. I know everyone doesn't like to hear that, like, oh, the album they like is average, but like that's not a bad thing. It's a normal album, right? But when you get into like 8, 9s, and 10s, that's when you're talking about masterpieces. I don't think this album's a masterpiece, but I do think it's very good, very cool. And this song is like the standout track on it for me. This is the one that, like, after I finished the whole album, I was like, yeah, that fucking song, that was sick. I definitely need to do a breakdown on that. So yeah, it's definitely worth your time. And that's it. That's the end of the breakdown of Rapture. Now, if you're interested, I do have a little bit of extra credit here that I'm going to go into. So last week I did Sanctuary, and in the comments of that video, I have a particular commenter who I have talked to before. I think it's a she. Forgive me if you're not a girl, but I think that she is a very passionate Evanescence fan, and we were talking about Afterlife. We were talking about Afterlife and how in Afterlife there's kind of this weird. They do some interesting modulation with like major and minor in the chorus, and so we're gonna talk about that theory real quick. This should only take. If you're not interested in theory, you have my permission to exit out of the video. But we're going to talk about this theory for a few minutes because I think it's pretty cool, and I actually dove into it a little bit more. So first, let's start off with Rapture so you guys can understand what exactly we were talking about here. Sorry, Afterlife, so you can understand. So let's go to the chorus. All right. So what's cool about this is that this song is in the key of C minor, or this chorus is in the key of C minor. And in the key of C minor, the minor third that makes C minor is E flat. So she should be playing an E flat throughout this chorus, right? But she does not. She's on let's see. On the word inside, she plays an E, like a natural E, not an E flat, which is the major third of C. So hold on, let's. So right there, that is that's the E flat. Hold on. That's like C. That's the E flat right there. It's dark. And some other stuff. Right there, that inside, that's an E. So that's actually the major third of C, which is very interesting. I think the more, she also says it on Tears. So she's gonna hit that E note here, which is major. And then when she says today, she goes back to the E flat, which is back to minor. Very interesting. So she's just smoothly going from that E note to the E flat note, which the reason why this is so important, again, is that we are in the key of C minor. And what makes C minor instead of C major is that you have E flat instead of E. So the fact that we're switching back and forth between E flat and E is very weird, because what it really means is like we're sort of switching back and forth between C major and C minor. Super bizarre. Here. That's E. That's E flat. So what we were talking about in the comments is whether or not this was Amy, Zach, or Jordan, or if this was the original writer for Afterlife. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name. I know she told me in the comment, but I can't remember. But it's like, who is doing this, or who put this in here? This is such an interesting thing to do from like a theoretical perspective. So I did a little bit of digging to see if there's any other instances of this on the album, and sure enough, I found one. I found a really good one, in fact. And it is on the final track, Wide Open Heart. So in Wide Open Heart, this song is in this chorus is in the key of B flat major. So in B flat major, the chord, the D chord, is it B flat major? Yeah, B flat major. The D chord is a minor chord. But then, and she plays D minor on the word heart. But then when she says letting it all, on that all fall apart, letting it all fall apart, she plays a D major chord. So listen for that. So the chord progression here is B flat major, G minor, D minor. And then it's B flat major, G minor, D major. Listen for it. B flat major, G minor. Wait, hold on. Sorry, I'm off. B flat major, G major, D minor. B flat, G, D major. Actually, you know what? Let's just do this right. I know now that y'all can hear me playing it because I did this a little while ago. So let's go back just a little bit and you can hear what I'm talking about. That's the minor. Here's the major. Pretty cool. So yeah, just so you can hear. And then it goes. She hits that note, and I think that's the same note that she hits when she says the word all. just. So yeah, that's what's going on there. Anyway, there you go. So the reason why I thought this was so interesting to talk about, though, was because it means that this wasn't a one-off from the maker of Afterlife. It means that this is, honestly, this is very likely Amy. She's an accomplished piano player, and I think that these types of weird chord modulations from, like, you know, switching out of the key and stuff, it's much easier to conceptualize on piano. And I think that yeah, it's just proof. It's like, yeah, this is somebody on the team. So Zach, Jordan, or Amy doing this. So yeah, there you go. That's pretty much it. Just a cool little thing. So they are doing interesting theory on this album. Cool theoretical shit if you're into it. So if you geek out on chord progressions and all that, go do it. Again, I don't usually do theory on this show just because I think it's kind of hard to conceptualize. Even musicians don't really know a lot of music theory, and so it's kind of like, I don't know. Plus, I think Rick Beato does it like a million times better than I could ever do it. I kind of prefer the more philosophical approach. But hey, I'll make exceptions if it's cool. So hope you enjoyed. And again, to that commenter, hope you enjoyed it too. Thank you and to anyone commenting. You know, again, I don't have very many subscribers. The reason I do this is because I just like talking about music. I love it. And I love getting really nitty and gritty. If you can't tell with this 1.5 hour long breakdown of a 3-minute song, I love getting really nitty gritty. So if you have any questions or if you disagree with anything I said or comments, please leave a comment. I love talking about stuff in the comments. So, anyway, that's the episode. Thank you so much. Subscribe, do all that stuff. You know how it works. And, I'll see you guys on the next one. Yeah, I think I'm doing How Do I Heal next week. So come back. Maybe even subscribe. You know, if you subscribe, you'll get the notification. All right, I'm not going to do that. All right, peace out, y'all. Thank you so much. Bye.